Hello, Ted.
Oliver, how are you doing?
Not too bad now. So we're going to talk today about the bylaw 4.7. But before we do that, how are things going on at the door? What's the feedback like?
Yeah, good. I have to say it's probably better than it was 5 years ago when I ran first of all. But I have to say it's at that very intense phase now where we're campaigning every morning at train stations and then into work and then back for train stations again, then the canvas and then posters at night. So it's pretty exhausting.
Okay, you're kept going.
We'll know this time next week.
Very good. And the dog issue, has it come up on the door?
Yes, but I'm saying this without any agenda or anything like that. I had several meetings with people 3 and 4 months ago, and as you know, it was very emotive issue at the time. I expected it to come up more. I'm not saying this to make any point or anything like that. It just hasn't come up that often. I'd say it comes up maybe once a canvas, maybe.
You met with Tomas from the Fingal dog group in Porterstown. You met a group of people there, and you had a chat with them, and you were trying to sort things out. Did anything happen after that? Did you ask for a review of the law or something?
Well, when it came up in the council chamber, there was a motion about reviewing the law. I spoke at that stage in favour of a review. Truthfully, and I've said that I'm not, in terms of scrapping it, I'm not there yet. But in terms of reviewing it, I think there's a very strong case. And my main reasons for saying that, and I said this in the council chamber, was because one, the park that I'm most familiar with, which is Porterstown Park. I'm truthfully not that familiar with the parks up in the north of the county, but I'd be very familiar with Porterstown Park. There was no consultation done there at all. In some of the other parks, Fingal officials went and met, or had a presence during the consultation period at the parks, and they met people. But that didn't happen at all in Porterstown. And I am aware that I know that the issue of a tax was disputed, the figures, but there were no incidents at all in Porterstown Park, recorded or otherwise, that we know of. So the fact that an off-leash area is proposed for Porterstown Park when there was no consultation and there has been no incidents, to me indicates strongly that there's a strong case for review, in addition to the fact that the proposed off-leash area is very small, very, very small.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So I do think, I'm a straight talker because I've said some things that I know the dog group are not very happy with, but I am with them on this one. There was a lack of consultation in Porterstown Park. The off-leash area is very small, and there was no problems there beforehand that I'm aware of. So I think on those grounds alone, there is definitely a case for it to be looked at.
Okay. I just want to say that how it affects me. One example would be St. Catherine's Park. I was a frequent visitor there because I have 2 water dogs, 2 Labradors. They love to swim, right? Now I have to go there in the summertime an hour before dark. So I have to drive to St. Catherine's Park at 10 o'clock at night. And the same for a woman. If a woman has 2 dogs and she's water dogs and she wants to enjoy that, So that's not feasible for me, okay? The other thing I want to say to you is in Porterstown, I noticed that the majority of dog owners are women. So women jog with their dogs to feel safe. Okay, jogging with a dog on a lead, is not a great experience. The dog usually follows on behind you, or he's 20 feet in front of you. But I also want to approach this from an economic point of view. I want to go back to pre-1990. Okay, so in pre-1990 you probably weren't born, or you were a baby, were you?
Well, I'm a bit older than I look. I'm a baby face.
Okay.
Born in 81.
Okay, you're born in 81. Okay, so you remember what the 80s were like. I remember opening an article in the Sunday World, and Ireland's unemployment rate had reached 17%. Okay, and they said that they were considering selling Ireland to the USA. That was actually on the table at the time, right? And Ireland would become a federal state of the USA. That's how bad things were. Okay.
No, I don't think I was ever seriously considered now. It might have been sort of.
Well, as a kid, I read it as a serious thing, and I was worried because I thought, "Mother of God, no! Selling our country, that would be terrible," But anyway, one thing that was big in the 1980s, and it was an airport built as well in 1985, 86, was Knock Airport. So we had a big religious tourism, right? And with all the scandals over 30 years of the Catholic Church, and then you've got all the people kicking the church around like a football, people lost sight of the fact that religion is a business. Okay, so we had religious tourism, which was a spiritual economy, and it was indigenous. For example, that was our economy, whereas if our tech companies that are here, they're not really our economy. They can leave tomorrow in 5 years, and they probably will, with tax harmonisation, and you got Donald Trump reducing the corporate tax rate. So Ireland's got to come up with some, what I call it, the microeconomic jigsaws, right? So that we have little jigsaws, each worth a couple of million, and they all come together as one. Okay, so that's where I come from with dog tourism. The American Express carried out a study in the UK, and it said 27% of dog owners in the UK will take their dogs on holidays, and they will spend 227 million sterling. Okay, so what I want to know, and this is where we're going to come to the feasibility study, where are they going? Because they're not going to Ireland, because you can't bring your dog on a train, a bus. Ireland is getting more dog friendly. There's more dog friendly restaurants. Okay, if you go to TripAdvisor, which is 400 million unique hits per month, okay, that's colossal. Type in the phrase into Google, type in the phrase "is Ireland dog friendly?" and when you scroll down the first page of Google, you'll get your answer fairly quickly. It just says no, Ireland is not dog friendly. So if I was a dog tourist bringing my dog, I probably wouldn't choose Ireland. So we need to change things in that area. Okay. So I'm just going to move on to some questions. Dog licenses. Dermot Byrne and Fingal Dog Group says that he'd like to see more enforcement and collection of the monies owed. Okay. As I said to you, Fingal County Council thinks there's 450,000 dogs in the country. A dog company I contacted says there's 800,000. Michael Healy-Ray in County Kerry says there's 2 million, because he says down the country people have 2 and 3 dogs in their house. Okay. Tanya Booth has a question. She says, Tanya Booth, does he believe the council now need to take expert advice on dog cages and restrictions on physical exercise of dogs, and also that they now need to involve and embrace one of the main park users in the future decisions impacting on them in the park use? In other words, a consultation with people that are experts in the area and the actual dog owner in the park. Do you think that's important?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, like the consultation phase, I think wasn't great. I'm not sure if there was any sort of dog expert involved. It appears not. Independent dog experts should be. They should be part of that consultation process.
Okay. Are you in favour of reversing bylaw 4.7? There's 10,000 people that are in favour, including myself. Are you in favour of reversing it?
Well, as I said to you earlier on, no, I'm not there yet.
Okay.
I'm truthfully, I'm just have been exceptionally busy with other things. I probably do need to familiarise myself with the situation in the north of the county. I definitely think it needs looking at. I mean, look, as I said to you earlier on, this comes up maybe once a canvas. I have conversations with people. You see you canvas a house and there's a dog in the house and you end up talking with the dogs, and this comes up. And there are people who feel very strongly that there should be no off-leash areas. But I say this in good faith to the dog action group. I do meet people who say, I don't really like going to the parks because there's too many dogs there and I feel a little bit unsafe. I get that.
You do, but
people say that to me. Now I know you all have sort of rebuts for that, and you all say, but that shouldn't happen. Our dogs are well behaved. There'll be no problem. But a parent walking a child doesn't know if a dog is well behaved. If a big dog comes around them, they don't know that, and that is an issue. And again, I say this in good faith, and I say this in the spirit of trying to come up with a solution to this issue. I think sometimes some people in the dog action group have been a bit dismissive of that concern, because that is a concern. It's not a fake concern, and it's not a concern that's sort of invented to people do sometimes feel that way, particularly about large dogs. It might be the best behaved dog in the world, it might be being friendly, but if you've got a small child, you don't know that, and you don't know the dog. So some people do feel that some people don't like taking their small children to public parks because they think there's too many dogs in them. So that is an issue. Okay,
it's an issue, but I can tell you that I have 2 big dogs, okay, and they're off the lead when I'm down in Porterstown or in any park, right? So when I see a woman with a pram, I'm cautious straight away, okay, and I judge by looking at her. Is she afraid? Is she not? Okay, and I'll always raise my hand and I'll say it's okay. Then she relaxes, okay, and then when I start talking to her, I say, listen, my dogs grew up with kids, which they actually did, okay, and so that kind of relaxes people. It's not as big as you might think it. This fear is. I don't think it's as big as you might think it is. Okay.
But the point I'm making is some people don't go to the parks at all because of that. I mean, like when you're in politics, I'm speaking casually here, like, you know,
of
in
course,
politics, sometimes people think, oh, you're out of touch or whatever, and you hear it from all sides when you're on the doors. You hear people, you know, you hear it from people. I hear people like yourself who feel very strongly there should be no off-leash areas, but I have heard it from people on the other side, and I'm wrestling with that in my head, and I'm weighing up what I think is the right thing and the wrong thing. And as I've said to you a number of times here now, I think there's major problems with the off-leash areas, and the whole concept of the off-leash areas. But there is an issue here, and you know, pretending it doesn't exist or dismissing those who have that issue isn't going to help anybody in this debate, or isn't going to sort of help get a solution. You know.
Okay. Sonia was talking about maybe we should have, Sonia and Fingal Dog Group, maybe we should have kind of a training facility, and the people should have to sit a theory test and a practical test for dog ownership from when the dog's a puppy, or if they get them from Dogs Trust or wherever they get them from. This actually happens in Sweden. Okay, you have to sit a test. I think they've abolished it after 10 years. There was a margin, there was of just 2%, I think. There was a Dáil vote on it, the equivalent to the Dáil, you know. In Sweden, there's also a dog tax, 120 euros a year per dog. Cats go free, okay? And but what about a publicly funded feasibility study to see how much it's worth to the economy, dog tourism and pet tourism in general?
Yeah, like you know, this is the first I've heard of that today. I mean, I think it's a very interesting point. I'd like to know more. I'd like to see more data on it. I mean, how many people do take their dogs on holidays? And you know, I mean,
or how many come into the country? What we really want is foreign investment, foreign tourists. You know? Yeah,
but it's something that frankly I hadn't considered really before. But you know, if we are losing out because it is seen as a very unfriendly place to take your dog, because you can't bring it out and you can't bring it on public transport, you know, that's definitely something that's worth investigation. And as you say, a feasibility study. You know,
absolutely. I see uses for dog pens in parks. This is another
sorry, dog what?
Dog pens. You know where they put down the fences.
Yeah.
If you go over to River Valley, it looks like Auschwitz. It looks terrible. Okay. I do see uses for them. There's people in Fingal Dog Group who don't. They're completely against it, and I understand it. But I think, look, if they're going to put dog pens somewhere, River Valley. Have you been there at all? No.
I have been there. Yeah.
Have you been there since the fences were put up?
I don't think so. No.
Look, it's absolutely horrendous. It's a beautiful park. Okay, in the heart of Swords. But they really, Fingal County Council, I don't know what they were thinking, but the Fingal Dog Group anyway stood in front of the JCBs for the second phase of it, and they said enough is enough, and that was it, okay? Now, dog transport. When was the last time, or did you ever see a dog in a bus or a train?
I can only think of guide dogs.
Exactly, the same with me. Yeah. The only time I've ever in my life seen a dog in the city walking around was Christmas morning. I'd done a video. I wanted to see what Dublin City was like at 7 o'clock. Christmas morning, right? I went around for 3 hours, videoed the entire city, right? And I met 2 dogs for the first time in my life, and I went, wow, that's amazing. Okay, the video's on the internet, I'll show it to you sometime. So I think, look, the train service, if we had a dog-friendly carriage, one carriage in every train, what would you think of something like that maybe?
Yeah, I think that's... Any problem with that is certainly not insurmountable, like, you know, that's...
It means that I can go from Castleknock all the way to Bray without the car, you know. And for example, in Sweden, what they do is Switzerland. You actually, if you have a small dog, he's considered luggage. Okay, you put him into a little bag. Okay, the head out obviously. But if he's a big dog, you pay half a fare. So things like that. I mean,
I have a brother in Switzerland, and I noticed the document you sent me earlier on. I think it's the second most friendly dog country in
that's right.
In the world.
Tel Aviv is very, very good.
Yeah,
you know.
I know, and I've been to Tel Aviv. I actually know, and I've been to Switzerland many times. I've noticed that both times actually. Yeah.
Okay, so Ted, the question is, where do we go from here, and what can we do? Do you think we could do a follow up maybe on a feasibility study? How would we go about it? Things like that.
Well, I suppose you know. If you think the action group should lead it, perhaps a meeting with the Minister for Tourism or some of his staff, or some sort of if you want to put some sort of proposal or document together, I'll certainly make sure that that it's seen, you know, at high levels. You know, okay. I think it's definitely worth considering and investigating and looking
absolutely, because I mean, it's to me, even looking at the figures. I mean, American Express is a serious organisation. They don't come out, they don't pluck the figures out of their heads, you know, and they've done it with good reason, I'm sure, you know. Curry, your running mate.
She is, yeah.
So if I was to vote for you, I did give her a number. That's the way it works, kind of. How does that work, actually?
Well, like, in terms of this campaign, we're both running in the Castleknock ward. I'm generally kind of focusing more on the kind of Castleknock and Lower Lodge area, and she's focusing more maybe on, let's say, the Carpenterstown, Clonsilla area. So that's kind of where we divided it. But obviously there'll be some crossover.
And this is, I think this is her first time actually.
It is, yeah.
Trying to become a councillor.
Yeah. So just to answer your question, generally for people who support me or who support me in Gael, we're generally asking people, like I said, in Castleknock and Lower Lodge to vote 1 myself, 2 Emer, and people who are in Carpenterstown, Clonsilla, Blanchardstown, Lucan North to vote, you know.
Grand.
That's the way we're doing it, basically.
One question I want to ask you about, but there's one guy, Jimmy Fitz, on the Fingal dog group. He's an independent. I think he's going for his first bout of being a councillor.
Where's he running in?
Swords, as far as I know. Jimmy's not putting up posters. What do you think of someone who doesn't put up posters if they're a first time candidate?
Well, I think he'd probably be at a disadvantage.
That's what I thought.
Because posters, and I mean this in all sincerity, I can't stand them. I hate them.
Yeah, they look horrible.
They look horrible, but also from a perspective of a campaign, you wouldn't believe the amount of resources it takes. You know, it takes about 10 minutes to put up a poster. Yeah. So putting up 400 of them, you know, you have to have 8 guys out for 3 or 4 nights, and they're volunteers, friends, my brother and his mates, and that type of thing. You know, it takes ages, and then there's problems with them. You have to go take them down and put them back up. So I'd be very happy to ban them, or at least maybe have them in designated areas or something, so we could all just have 50 and that's it, or 30 and that's it, you know.
Okay.
But truthfully, for someone running for the first time, Jimmy will probably have a bit of a recognition problem, you know.
That's what I thought, you know. And one last question I want to ask you about the election, because I'm interested in politics as well, is that how long do you campaign before you actually, is it 3 weeks, 4 weeks?
Well, I like to think I'm very active all throughout the entire five years, you know. I do a lot of public meetings, and I'm regularly canvassing, but in terms of the campaign, really you need to put in a 3-month campaign. I've done a 3-month campaign. Now, obviously it crescendos and it gets, you know, gets more intense as you get towards the final stretch. But it's fascinating. It really is. Canvassing I enjoy campaigning because you're knocking on people's doors. They're raising issues with you that you might never have thought of, you know. And you have to then go and do a bit of research on it and get back to it, and you learn an awful lot. And I think no matter what age or what era we're living in, there really is no substitute for just knocking on doors and chatting to people and
there isn't,
getting to know people. Like, I know social media is important and all that, but I think knocking on doors and just meeting people and chatting to people is really important. There's no substitute for it.
No substitute. And is there anything you want to say to Fingal Dog Group, last words, and to Porterstown, the people in the park?
Well, in Porterstown, look, it's a wonderful park. It should remain a very dog-friendly place. I have never been made aware of any major problem there with dogs, or any problem at all. Nobody's ever contacted me to say that they were felt unsafe or felt attacked. Now, as I did say earlier, people say to me generally they find the public park sometimes, you know, intimidating with dogs. They have said that to me, but the dog walkers there, it's the same dog walkers, and they're all very, very responsible, and there's been no problems there. So I think that, as I've said before, I think they've handled the Porterstown Park issue badly, and the off-leash area is very small and not very practical. In terms of the wider the dog group, you know, like I said, it's I think there's a solution to this. You know, I think the problems that we face are not, you know, they can be overcome. I know there's a very strong feeling that the bylaw should be overturned, and it will be reviewed and may be overturned. But you know, I would just appeal again to people involved in the group to, you know, while they have some very, very strong points and they're very well organised and they clearly know what they're talking about, there is another side to the argument, and that needs to be factored into when campaigning and you know, I would urge the Dog Action Group to come up with ideas to put people's minds at ease who might be you know, have concerns about the fears. Yeah, you know, they're they're our neighbours as well, and we should be,
mindful, respectful,
and respectful, and just do whatever we can to help reassure them. Because people, like I said, there's people love their dogs. People want to be able to walk their dogs, and other people want to be able to use the park well. But there's a way to do that. I think that works for everybody, and everyone should kind of work towards the same goal in that.
Absolutely,
respect,
harmonisation.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Ted.
No worries, Oliver.